You heard the music, so it must be that time of the week. Thank you for tuning into this brand new podcast here on the 7th of March, 2023. Round 2 Wrestling has a special episode tonight, PWI Awards Special. That's right, Pro Wrestling Illustrated just released all of its awards for 2022, and we here on Round 2 Wrestling have those exclusive results and awards for you, the wrestling fan. Round 2 Wrestling and SlimmDa KID proudly present a Round 2 Wrestling special for you, the listener. Number 1 pro wrestling magazine in the world, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, has once again released its 2022 Wrestling Awards, including the Rookie of the Year, Best Faction, Match of the Year, and more. All of this info is available in part by PWI Magazine and pro wrestling writers across the world. Be sure to visit your local newsstand and pick up your own copy of PWI's 2022 Year in Wrestling issue. We usually here on Round 2 Wrestling have several different segments that we like to go through, 4 to be specific. This is an award special, so things are going to be a bit different, and you are going to hear my opinion a little bit more often than you would usually hear on a typical episode of Round 2 Wrestling. Speaking of Round 2 Wrestling, be sure to tune in tomorrow, Wednesday, March the 8th, for your regularly scheduled Round 2 Wrestling podcast. So, without further ado, let's walk into the awards special and listen about the awards handed out by PWI. Alright, enough of the clapping and the hooting and hollering. We are going to jump right into Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Awards of the Year. PWI's Rookie of the Year was AEW's Hook, who picked up 53% of the vote available by pro wrestling writers. Number 2 for Rookie of the Year was WWE's Logan Paul, receiving 20% of the total vote. A few of the top runners-up for Rookie of the Year are Lash Legend, Kid Bandit, and Tiffany Stratton. PWI's Most Improved Wrestler Award goes to WWE's Mandy Rose, who took home 33% of the total vote. Number 2 was another WWE wrestler. WWE's Madcap Moss received 11% of the vote for the Most Improved Wrestler of 2022. A few of the top runner-up for Most Improved Wrestler are Camille, Dominic Mysterio, and Moose from Impact Wrestling. These first 2 awards that PWI put out, the Rookie of the Year and the Most Improved Wrestler, I feel they got mostly right. Hook was most definitely the hottest thing in pro wrestling outside of maybe Danhausen. And the Most Improved Wrestler was for sure Mandy Rose, although I do like the top runner-up Moose as possibly being the number 2, but WWE's Madcap Moss had an incredible year and deserved the votes that he got. Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Comeback of the Year Award. This is an award given to a wrestler who maybe fell off the year before due to some sort of injury, personal issue, or whatever, and used 2022 to once again reclaim one of the top spots in pro wrestling. The PWI Comeback of the Year award winner is Impact's Taya Valkyrie, taking home 20% of the total vote. This particular award had very, very tight voting, and the number 1 and the number 2 recipients for this particular award were only separated by a mere 4%. The number 2 Comeback of the Year recipient is WWE's Bayley, receiving 16% of the total vote. The top runners-up for this particular category are Bray Wyatt, Mike Bailey, and Saraya from AEW. Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Inspirational Wrestler of the Year is awarded to AEW's Jon Moxley, who received a whopping 32% of the total vote. The number 2 is, of course, a WWE wrestler. Liv Morgan received a fair share of the voting, 21% of the vote to be exact. The top runners-up for this Inspirational Wrestler of the Year award are Cody Rhodes, Mike Jackson, AC Mack, and Bianca Belair. This is a very closely contested award. I believe it could have gone to either Jon Moxley or Cody Rhodes. I think Liv Morgan at number 2 is very, again, inspirational, i.e. the Inspirational Wrestler of the Year award, but was undeserving at the same time. Cody Rhodes transitioned from one company to another, and to be successful in the way that he was almost immediately garners a few more votes in this broadcaster's personal opinion. Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Most Popular Wrestler Award is also AEW's Jon Moxley, who again received 32% of the vote for this particular award. The number 2 most popular wrestler, according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, is WWE's Roman Reigns, who took home 18% of the vote. Some of the bigger names for runner-up for the most popular wrestler are Sami Zayn, Liv Morgan, and Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Once again, this is an award I believe PWI got right from the very get-go. PWI's Most Hated Wrestler Award is once again going to an AEW wrestler. MJF received a whopping 49% of the total vote, and this is well-deserved because he is one spiteful, hateful son of a bitch, and people love to hate this guy. Number 2 was WWE's Roman Reigns, who received a mere 10% of the vote. A far cry from MJF, but is still one of the most hated wrestlers in the pro wrestling industry. Some of the top runners-up for most hated wrestler in pro wrestling are Matt Cardona, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. The only person on this particular list that I am sort of confused about is Seth Rollins. I know he's a heel and he plays a pretty good one, but compared to some of these other people, especially CM Punk and MJF, Seth Rollins looks like an angel sent from heaven. So this one I was a little bit confused with, but mostly agree with PWI and their pickings for most hated wrestler. Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Feud of the Year is again an AEW recipient. MJF and CM Punk received 27% of the total vote for Feud of the Year. Number 2 was AEW's Blackpool Combat Club against the Jericho Appreciation Society, which garnished 15% of the total vote. Top runners-up for the Feud of the Year award include Honor No More versus Impact and Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. Once again, I agree wholeheartedly with the Feud of the Year. Either one, MJF versus CM Punk or BCC versus JAS, I feel, could have been the number 1 feud. WWE did have feuds, of course, as did Impact, Ring of Honor, and other promotions, but none that garnished the amount of attention that MJF versus CM Punk did. Continuing on with this award show, PWI's Independent Wrestler of the Year is awarded to NWA's Matt Cardona, who received a hefty percentage of the vote. 42% of writers agreed that Matt Cardona was the Indie Wrestler of the Year. The number 2 Indie Wrestler of the Year was GCW's Allie Katch, who received 9% of the total vote. Some of the top runners-up for Indie Wrestler of the Year were Nick Gage, AC Mack, and Effie. This is an award that I feel does not get enough attention. Independent wrestlers are what makes pro wrestling go, and this needs more emphasis. Again, this is just this broadcaster's personal opinion. Pro Wrestling Illustrated awards a Match of the Year award, and this year's award recipient is WWE's Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, receiving 19% of the total vote. However, this particular category was also quite close. Number 2 was WWE's Gunther versus Sheamus, receiving 15% of the total vote. Some of the top runners-up for Match of the Year were CM Punk versus MJF and The Elite versus United Kingdom. PWI's Faction of the Year is awarded to WWE's The Bloodline, receiving 48% of the total vote. Number 2 was AEW's Blackpool Combat Club, receiving 17% of the vote. A good portion, but Bloodline really did dominate everything this year when it comes to factions. Some of the top runners-up for Faction of the Year were Toxic Attraction, Honor No More, and WWE's Judgment Day. PWI's Tag Team of the Year is no surprise. AEW's FTR received a whopping 42% of the total vote. This tag team was draped in gold for the majority of 2022. It wasn't until the end of 2022 that they started to lose some of those titles. And if you tuned into AEW Revolution this past Sunday, you saw firsthand that FTR is back in AEW. I expect them to once again be tag team champions before the end of the year. The number 2 tag team of the year goes to WWE's The Usos, receiving 29% of the total vote. The top runners-up for this category, the Briscoes, Damage Control, and New Day, were up for the Tag Team of the Year award. PWI's Woman of the Year is awarded to WWE's Bianca Belair, receiving 21% of the total vote. Number 2 is a surprise to me. AEW's Jade Cargill received 14% of the total vote. She is still undefeated, folks. Some top runners-up for Woman of the Year include Mickie James, Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, and Suri. Sorry, I butchered that name just a little bit. PWI's Wrestler of the Year was awarded to WWE's Roman Reigns, receiving 34% of the total vote by pro wrestling writers. Number 2 was AEW's Jon Moxley, who received 23% of the total vote. Some of the top runners-up for this category are New Japan's Will Ospreay, Impact's Josh Alexander, and AEW's Bryan Danielson. That is it for the official PWI Awards for 2022. Very quickly here as we close out this particular podcast, we have the unofficial PWI Awards for 2022. And we will talk about that right here, right now. You gotta love the bell. PWI's Missing in Action Award goes to AEW's Miro. Where the fuck has he been? Nobody knows. PWI's Biggest Disappointment Award, AEW's CM Punk. PWI's Most Absent Award, WWE's Charlotte Flair. One has to be with the company in order to be considered a part of that company, Miss Flair. Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Take This Job and Shove It Award, WWE's Sasha Banks and Naomi for walking out on WWE earlier in 2022. PWI's Best Entrance Song, FTR. The Best Haircut Award, according to PWI, AEW's Hook. The Best Wrestling Show, according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Tales from the Territories. The Best Magazine, according to PWI, is, of course, PWI. The PWI Top Guys Award. This goes to AEW's FTR, naturally. PWI's King of Promos Award, AEW's MJF. PWI's Funniest Wrestler Award, AEW's Danhausen. PWI's Larry Zbyszko Award, WWE's Dominic Mysterio. And our final unofficial official PWI Award, the PWI World's Strongest Woman Award, goes to Impact's Jordynne Grace. I am SlimmDa KID. Thank you for tuning in.